Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to do some scroll saw work on this image here. Basically flowers with the leaves, and I'm guessing that's a sunset. It could be another flower, I've no idea. And I've incorporated the love you words just in the middle there. So the idea is cut it out on 5.5mm hardwood plywood. Now the idea is to basically cut out all the white sections, so when we're finished, all that will be left is the black outlines, and then we'll spray it up, stain it, and then we'll stick it down to another backer. Now depending how we feel, we might cut round a backer very similar using the little washer idea, and we'll show you that towards the end of the project. Or we might put clear plastic on the back and have it more like a stained glass effect. Personally myself, I'd rather do the backer. So we're going to have to attach this to the plywood, and I like to put painter's tape down. We'll literally just line the full piece with painter's tape, and then we'll spray on some glue and basically just stick it down to the plywood itself. Once we've stuck it all down in place like so, we'll go around with a drill, and we have to drill what they call pilot holes basically into every section. And you can guarantee as we start cutting it out, I'd have missed one or two, but that's no problem. And like I say, we're going to fill them all in with multicoloured resin just to fill it up nicely and make a nice piece out of it. Just before we start and talk about the blades, we'll just put our tape on the spray and drill all our pilot holes first. Right, so we've stuck our painter's tape down, we glued the template on top, and you can see from there we've drilled all our little pilot holes. Hopefully we haven't missed any, and if you wanted to, you can just give a little rub down on the back just to get rid of those little nozzly bits. Now with my scroll saw, it only takes pin blades, so when I use my blades I have to use these adapter clamps, and there's different types out there. If you put in a Draper adapter clamps online, you'll pop up with something like this, and then you go to the top of your blade as well as your bottom, and you have to use a little Allen key to tighten it on like so on your updated saws. So if you're thinking about going out and purchasing a scroll saw, I would certainly try and get one that takes pinless blades, then it will save you messing about with the adapter clamps here. On your more standard saws, you get the pin blade there. Stay my hands. You get the pin blade there, top and bottom. Now you might just get away with this on this one if you've got enough space on your saw. Before we start, I will just cut off that end section there, by the way. Obviously, because of the pins at the end, you're going to have to drill bigger holes. Now you wouldn't get it into there, then pins are going to be in the way. So looking at that, you cannot use pin blades on this one. So the best option is pinless blades. These are really fine, as you can see from there. Obviously on my saw I'd have to have the adapter clamps on, but on your more expensive saws you just clamp it top and bottom and you're good to go with those. They will work perfect on this one if you have enough room to turn it. Now for me personally, and they're certainly not for everybody, there's a lot of haters out there, I use spiral blades. This is a Pegas number 5, and the teeth spiral the full length of the blade, so you could cut that in any direction. So we could feed that into that hole there basically like so, and just move your wood like that and just start cutting it out. Whereas your other two saws, you've got to pop it in, come down there, twist the full piece to go up there, come down, twist and up, and there's a lot of work and effort involved. Some fantastic people out there can really cut them. I've tried them, they're just not for me. So spiral blade for me, Pegas number 5, and we'll do the full piece in with that. Okay, I'll remove this little section off camera, and then we can set up our first hole. We're going to try and work from the inside. This is going to be our delicate piece, these two letters here, so we might just bear that in mind, and we'll leave that to a little bit later. Some people have been known to cut the pieces out and then put tape over the top just to hold that piece in place as a support for that small section going across here. Right, let's start cutting this out and see how far we go. Right, so we've set up our Pegas number 5 spiral blade and we fed it through our first pilot hold. I'm just going to start off here and do this flower first, and we'll leave the lettering until last, just so we have a bit of support on either side of those thin sections. So we've got our blade in. With all your blades, be it spiral or straightforward blades, they want to feel smooth on the way down, rough on the way up. That way you've got your blade in the right way. They will cut the opposite way, but you'll just get all your paper and all your stuff all gets pushed to the top instead of getting pushed down underneath. So smooth on the way down, rough on the way up. It stayed in my hands. That's that glue, by the way, so we'll have them cleaned up when we come back. And we've cut the tension at the back of the saw, ping ping sound. We're ready to go. We'll cut a few out. Let's start cutting this one. Right, so we've made it all the way around with that Pegas number 5 spiral blade, and so far we haven't lost anything. You can just see from there they're still intact. Now on the back of these pieces you will find with your spiral blades you'll get what they call little nodules, and that's just the roughness of the wood. Personally myself, I'll just take 5 minutes to go around with a bit of sandpaper and just sand those bits off. There will be files out there. I've got a little set here myself, just little mini files if you wanted to use them, just to tidy up that back section. It's just one of the downfalls of using spiral blades, but it doesn't take long, should I say. I've been known just to scrape those bits off with your nails, this should be. Right, now the backer for this piece. Now originally I was going to use the old washer method, which would be, the backer would be slightly bigger than the actual piece itself, and the idea is you would put on whatever wood you're going to use. I'm just going to show you a sample on this one. If you imagine this piece of scrap here was the outside of this area here, you put your backer underneath, then you'll use a washer and a pencil, and you can just place it round the piece. We will start here and then just start drawing round. Remember, this would already be cut out, so you would have a raised piece, and if you're good you can go around like that quickly, and there would be your back section to do out. You remove that, cut it all out, and that would give you a backer with a depth of, let's say, 3mm, ideally just the depth of that washer there, thickness of that washer, should I say. But on this one, and it's going to be a first for me, I'm going to cut out the backer exactly the same size as the pattern itself. So for, excuse me, I can't talk today. So for that, I'm going to use a 5mm 5.5mm plywood, exactly the same as the piece here. I did go out and purchase some 12mm, but it's far too thick by the time we got those two together. That'd be what, 12, 17.5, so we're going to use 5.5, the same. Now it's the first time I've done this. I'm just going to tape this on. I suppose you could dab glue onto here and then stick it down onto that piece, and that will be your backer, like so. And we're just going to cut out the two pieces at the same time. That way it shouldn't be far off a perfect fit. So I'll just put some tape around this, pop it back on the scroll saw, and literally just cut out, hopefully, to the same shape as the top piece. Let's do that next. Right, so we've made it all the way around the outer edges of our pattern, so we can remove all that top section now. That was a first for me, cutting two pieces in one go. Sometimes with smaller pieces you can do 3 or 4 and cut out 4 items or 4 projects in one go. It's what they call stack cutting, but this was a first for me on this one, and it's done fine. Because we've put those little bits of tape there still, it's all left in place as one piece. So now I'm just simply going to spin it over, get rid of these little nozzly things, take a couple of minutes just to go around like so, give it a tidy up, and we'll do the same with the top section, and then simply remove all our tape. And then when we come back, we'll look into the paint or stain that we're going to use to finish this off, before we basically fill all this in with coloured resin. But before that, we'll just give it a quick tidy up first. Just before we do actually start peeling off the tape above here and just giving it a nice tidy up, I did notice when I was looking at the pattern itself that there's 2 sections to cut out. So I actually thought I'd finished with the scroll saw, but I hadn't. So there's basically, I can just put them back in place like so. There was this section here to cut out, and a little hole there, and on the opposite side there was 2 sections here, just one there and one there. So I literally just had to cut them off camera, just so we can see the actual shape there, and them 2 there. So that's our backer piece, and I've already done the back of this one. Like I said previously, it's just a simple case to go around, a bit of sandpaper, a little file. It's all part of the process, and it just removes all those sections. So there's our backer piece, all nicely ready to do. So we just got to finish the same with this one. Turn it over, remove those little nodule things, just boring stuff. So I'll do this off camera, and then we can literally just remove all the tape. Nice and steady at this stage, don't get too excited, go in there and start ripping it off. Even though it's 5.5mm plywood, and if it seems fairly solid, I'm sure it wouldn't take much to break one of these sections here. So I'll just peel it all off gently like so, and then when we come back, this will all be tidied up, sanded down, and then we'll be ready to pop on some stain or paint. We'll see what we've got in the drawers, my little shed here, and we'll take it from there. Okay, I'll come back in a minute when it's all nicely ready to stain. Right, that's enough tidying up for me. We've sanded all the back sections of both pieces, basically just to remove those little nodule things here. We don't have to focus on the inside of the section. Remember, we're going to fill these up with resin, and the same with that one. That's all nicely smooth now, and we've got no issues with the backs all done. Takes seconds to go round. Spiral blades aren't for everybody, and people whinge on about this sanding down bit afterwards, but for me it's all part of the process. So there will be our backer section, and then this is going to be obviously the top piece to fit on. Afterwards, from there, once that's all nicely stuck down there in place, we will basically just fill these in with some nice coloured resin. Just before that, we're going to stain this, only because there is a lot of fiddly bits to get in. You could get away maybe spraying this, but for me, I normally use paint and a brush, but it's going to be just too awkward to get into these small sections. So I do find the old stain. I'm going to do a light teak on this one. I would have preferred the dark, but I just don't have it. And it will be a simple case of just throwing this on. I'll get a rubber glove on in a minute. We'll do both the same colours on this. The back section, we'll just pop it on like so and just cover the full piece. No messing about. Getting all those side walls, remember, and we will basically do exactly the same with the top piece. And it spreads well and it soaks in, and we just want to make sure we get all those side walls like so. So I'll come back when it's all nicely done, when it's nicely dry, and then we'll spray on a little bit of varnish just to coat it all first. I'll explain that a bit nearer the time, and then we'll go and get some resin, and we're going to use resin to glue this down. It's just too much there. If you cannot use super glue on this to go around and put little dabs on. Once you glue that down there, as soon as we put our coloured resin in, it's going to spread in from one section to another. So I just find it's easier to put a clear resin over the back section completely, and then stick this down, put a bit of weight on it, leave that 24 hours, and then we'll come back with our coloured resin mixed with acrylic paints, and just basically start filling everyone in. But before that, we've got to cover all this and spray some varnish on just to seal it and just to give it a bit more shine. Okay, I'll come back when this is all done. Right, so that's both pieces nicely covered and dried. You can see from that we've got all those side walls done. That's no problem. Now you might be thinking, what is the point of staining all the back section when it's all going to be covered? On a previous project, I literally just done the edges, and where it slightly gone into the project, once I put the resin on, if you look really close, you could see the stain at the back on a different project. So for me personally, I just stain the full piece. That way, if your resin's not quite dark enough as regards to colour, it'll look slightly darker because you've got the darker background. So that is the reason why I did all the back section, even though in theory all we wanted to do was these side sections there, because that's the only bit we're going to see of the backer. Remember, this is all going to be covered with resin. So that's all done nicely now. It's all nicely dry. Now for me, I'm just going to spray a bit of varnish on this. One, just to seal the wood slightly, just to help with any bubbles in the resin. And for me personally, it just finishes the project off. So just any varnish will do. 151. I've also got a box full of this because I've used it on a lot of my projects, and it will be a simple case of spraying it all down. We'll do the top section first. It's a lovely, lovely sunny day today, so I will go outside and basically do it all. 2 or 3 coats of this just to finish it off, and you'll see it just darkens it down very slightly and just gives it a little bit of a shine, just to say you've finished the project off. We'll hang it on the washing line, maybe let it spin round and just give it a nice coating like so. And the same with the back section there. Doesn't need a lot on. We're more concentrating on the side walls there, but you can more or less just about make out. It's very subtle, but it is enough to say we've finished it. Right, we'll go outside, put the rest on, and then we'll come back. We'll glue the 2 sections together. Okay, so we've done 3 or 4 coats of that varnish, and it's just enough just to give it that little shine. And hopefully we've sealed this wood a little bit. I don't have a lot of issues with plywood, to be honest, as regards to putting resin in and bubbles. Now we've got to basically glue these two sections together. Now in the easier projects, I would normally get my resin and just brush it on with a brush like so, but there's too much going on here to go on with a brush, so I find it now just to simply just cover the full bottom section, and then we can simply just press that on top, get it in place, put some weights on, put a cover on, some weights, leave it overnight, and hopefully that is sealed. Any gaps, the resin will find it, leak through. That's the last thing we want. So the resin for today is Vista 1, the 2-part resin. You have A, your resin, B, your hardener, and it's a 1-to-1 mix. So 1 part this to 1 part this, mix the two together. It's as simple as that. Some resins are 2-to-1, 3-to-1, so you want 3 times amount to 1, so just be careful. Some resins are deep pour, some resins are craft resins. This is quite easily, and it's a mix by volume. Some resins you mix by weight, you will actually weigh them off on little scales. I'll just use these little plastic party cups. They're ideal. They have little grooves up the side. So I'm just going to go 3 grooves for A, 3 grooves for B, mark it off. We'll mix the two together. They do say put it into a 3rd container. It's something I've never done. I typically pour B into A because B flows a little bit easier. We'll give it a nice mix. Mixing wise, party knife, forks and spoons. Give it a nice mix. These are ideal. They have a nice little groove in the back there. And that will let us scoop it up when we come to fill in these harder sections. For this back piece, we can literally just pour it on. And then we're going to spread it about. Sometimes we sacrifice a brush. I've just got a bit of cardboard here. And we're going to use that as our spreader for spreading it around. And we're literally just going to cover this back section. So we want to spread this all around. Make sure we get right to the edges. We don't want it too thick. I don't want it to run out the edges and run down the side. So it's just going to be enough to skim it over. When it's all nicely done, we'll be able to tilt it like so. And you'll see where the shine is and make sure we've not missed anything. And then we'll just attach the top piece. Right, I'll mix this off camera, our A and B resins, and when we come back we'll attach this top section. Right, there's all our little bit of resin nicely mixed. So it's going to be a simple case of just spreading it over the complete piece. So we can just start a bit in the middle. But remember, with your resin you want proper gloves on. Please don't follow my example. Proper mask, plenty of ventilation. Some people can have quite a allergic reaction to resin, so be careful. It is a chemical, remember, so I'm just going to start off with something like that, just to get us going. You can see from there, you see how dark it gets once the resin goes on, so we all know. Make sure we have it all covered. Like I said previously, I would use a brush now, but I'm running out of brushes, so some bit of cardboard, and that will be enough just to spread it about like so. What I don't want really is for it to run over the edge, so we're going to be a bit careful when it comes towards these end pieces. And when it gets to the awkward sections, we could use a cocktail stick and just feed across the way like so. Right, I'll cover all this up, boring stuff, and when we come back we'll be ready to pop on the top section. Right, so we've covered all our bottom section. You might just see there by that nice shine, and that hopefully will be enough to act as a glue for our top section. So you can move it about. It's no panic if you don't get it right first time. So we're just simply going to pop that on top, and we have wiggle room to play about. Feel each section till we get it more or less spot on like so, and just press it down gently. And I'm going to need weight on, keep it all nicely pressed down and hopefully this will seal all those sections. You will find as the resin dries, we'll have bits inside here that have missed out as the resin has shrunk. That's fine, that works out in our favour. So press it all down like so. Hopefully it's all nicely sealed. And then we just want to cover it with some pieces like so. And then we want some weight on it and just make a nice sandwich of the two bits. So all nicely covered. And we'll find a couple of weights. There's one for that side and obviously one. Here we go for the other side. And that's it. We'll leave that 24 hours, come back, take all this off, and hopefully it's all been sealed. And then we'll basically go through the same procedure regarding the mixing of the resin. We'll add our acrylic paint and then just start filling them in. Okay, we'll come back in 24 hours. Right, it's about 24 hours later and I've removed the weights and removed the top. We'll save these till we've actually filled this all in and put these back on top again, just to keep the dust and the flies away. Now hopefully, looking at that, we had no issues, no leakages, but we're just hoping that everything has sealed all the way around. Remember I mentioned before about these areas that have been covered, just there. That's fantastic, that works in our favour. That just gives it something for the resin to bond to, but per myself, these are going to be deep enough that we're not going to have any issues with that at all. So we're going to fill this in with resin, basically exactly the same as before. So it's the same mix, 2 parts, A and B, remember. And then we're just going to add our acrylic paint, mix it in and start filling this all in. I'll mix a little batch up first, and then when we come back, we can start adding our colours and filling. Right, there's our first little batch made up. I'd rather mix small amounts for each colour than mixing a full container, having it put one side. By the time you've messed about and played about, especially when you're making little videos, and when you come to use it, it's just starting to stiffen up on you and can get a bit awkward. So little small bits for me. Now we're going to do yellow first, which is going to be all this round here, and into each one of these. So a nice bit for that. Now acrylic paints, there's dyes out there, inks, powders. I've just used these acrylic paints on all my projects and I've had no issues. They do say 10% of whatever the amount you're mixing per the amount of acrylic paint goes in, but personally myself, I just mix it till I think I've got a nice colour, and I can honestly say I haven't had one issue of nothing setting or curing on me. Once you get the first one, we're mixing up a little batch of resin, do exactly the same with another colour, and so on and so on. So we can speed up things then. But for the first one, we can mix it, see what it looks like. Remember those knives, you've got nice little scoops on there, so we can scoop that into there like so. If it looks a little bit too light, I simply just add a bit more yellow. I prefer the nice strong solid colours. If this was going to be a stained glass effect, we wouldn't have the backer on. You can make it a bit weaker like that and obviously have the light shining through, but we're not doing it with this one. We want good solid colours, and you might just be able to see the difference from there and there regarding the two yellows there. So we're just going to start filling this in. After we fill it in, tighter areas, nice cocktail stick, just help it along its way, feed it. And once we fill, each section, we'll go along with our little lighter, and that just allows us to skim across like so and remove all those air bubbles. Okay, let's start filling this one in. Right, there's all our resin gone in. As each colour's been put inside, I've just gone with the lighter and just skim over the top, and any little bubbles that's hanging around the edges, they will nicely disappear. And that's it, that's all we can do for now. So we'll simply just put this to one side, make sure we put another cover on top, keep any flies or dust away, and then we'll come back in 24 hours and this little project will be finished. Right, it's less than 24 hours later and this little project is finished. Now you can see from that everything's nicely set. We've got a lovely shine on that resin, plenty solid enough. Now they do say in certain resin groups and manufacturers that it takes up to 30 days to fully cure. Personally myself, I would hang this up tomorrow and have no issues with it. Nice and solid. The only downside I would say personally for me, I've been a little bit tight with the resin in the leaves. I was down to the last bit in the bottle, so if anything, maybe the leaves, if you can just see there, they could add a little bit more in. With your resins, as it cures, it will have a concave effect, so it will sink in the middle, so they could add a little bit more in, but that certainly doesn't take it away from the actual project itself. And we've had no issues, and that sealing the back with the resin first and then sticking down the top section, that's worked perfect. We've had no leakages in the old piece itself. So that's it, this little project is finished. So it measures in at 17 inches by 16 inches. We cut it out on 5.5mm plywood, the top section and the backer. We use our Pegas number 5 spiral blade, just a personal choice for me. You can see there the teeth are spiraled to full length. Unfortunately with my little old saw I have to use these adapter clamps. And then we stained it all with a nice dark teak wood stain there, just to give it some bit of colour. And then we stuck it all together. Before that, bit of spray just to finish it off. It's subtle enough, and for me personally, it just finishes the project. And like I say, we stuck it together with that resin. This just covered all the back piece, clamped it down overnight. That worked fantastic. And then we laid it all with Vista 1 resin mixed with just acrylic paints, and they've worked out fine. So we've had no problems on this one, lucky enough. You do find certain plywoods that might not be as nice as others, but that one's worked out fine today. So there we have it. Love you. Flower arrangement. I'm still debating if that's actually a sunflower or a sun. Does it matter? It doesn't, does it really? This little project will finish, and I'm sure somebody's going to love that as a gift. Thank you very much for watching.